We are back, kind of a after dark or PM hours of the Between the Hashes podcast here on the 515 Podcast Network. As always, Braden Benkin and myself, Dawson Livingston, here to just recap week 6 and looking forward into week 7. Currently, as we're recording, it is Thursday Night Football. I believe the Steelers are trailing the Bengals by 6 with about 5 minutes to go. So when that game gets wrapped up, as we're recording, we'll react to it when we get there. But as always, we start the episode. Braden, how you doing?
Um, Not great, man. I don't know if you saw the Niners last week, but not only did they break my Owen streak, Fred Warner's out for probably the season, and we lost. So, and Iowa State lost. So I'm not doing great, man.
Someone check in on Braden.
But it's rough out here.
All right, we won't get to those in a second. But yeah, didn't really have that many exciting games that we're going to talk on. So this episode isn't going to be nearly as long as our episodes in the past. But we usually start on Thursday Night Football. But I don't know about you, Braden, but last Thursday Night Football was kind of a snooze fest. Giants just looked super dominant throughout the entire game. So if it's okay with you, I want to start with the big game that everyone's talking about, Sunday Night Football.
I'm all right with that. You kind of hinted this earlier. We're kind of at demon hours right now, and I got work in the morning. So
yeah,
we're as quick as we can get this rolling. I think this is going to be the best for me.
Yeah. So we're going to recap Sunday Night Football, Chiefs versus Lions. This was one of our Game of the Week picks. I'm trying to pull up who had who in this game. Me and Brock picked the Chiefs in this game. Braden did pick the Lions, so this was not the game that he won his streak back. But yep, Chiefs win this game 30-17. Offense looks super dominant for Kansas City. A little bit of controversy maybe in this game. That 4th and goal. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? That 4th and goal touchdown that was taken off the board for Detroit.
Wait, which one are you talking about? I think we might be thinking of different goal line.
The Jared Goff receiving touchdown. That one that got taken off the board. Because that's the one that with a lot of controversy.
Yeah, that's the one where he didn't line up in the backfield or whatever that was.
He was under center and then motioned out, but never set himself.
Established himself in the backfield.
Correct.
I think. So yeah, I mean, he didn't. If you watch it back, he didn't exactly line up as a guy in the backfield. I don't know. I'm not really super stingy on rules like that. So I mean, if it's a penalty, then call it. But also, that was a sick play. It sucks to see that get taken off. The one that I was thinking you were talking about was the one where, the receiver for the Chiefs was a yard and a half out. It was some sort of pick play.
You're thinking of the Jags game.
Am I still thinking of the Jags game?
You're thinking of the Jags game because I know the exact that where Kelsey caught a touchdown.
Okay,
this is what we get for after dark.
4 minutes in, and I already can't think. We're off to a.
It's all good.
Start. I don't know. Yeah, Chiefs controversy. You can just there's one every game.
Yeah, I think what's stemming from what's upsetting a lot of people in this game is that I think the Chiefs had 0 penalties and 0 penalty yards the entire game, which after just having 12 or 13 like they did against Jacksonville to going to 0.
I don't know if I buy that.
Yeah.
I don't think there has never been a game played ever that there have been games where penalties have not been called. But to say that a team has gone an entire game without committing a single penalty is just not accurate.
Yeah, I don't disagree. But for me, it just kind of evened out because there were some calls in that Jacksonville game that it was probably 50-50, but they leaned towards throwing the flag. And it kind of just evened itself out. Let's just get this straight. NFL refs, all refs across all sports suck. You could complain about every single call if you would like. You could call holding on every single passing play, every single running play. If we want to get super technical, all the officials are terrible. Now, does it look worse for Kansas City because they're always a primetime game? They always have the most eyes on them? Yeah, it looks like they're the beneficiary of a lot of calls, but I think this is just an officials like just being bad at their job across all professional sports right now. I don't know if you feel the same way.
No, I mean that's definitely a valid point. Just refereeing is probably one of the hardest jobs that you can have because it's like impossible to make these split time decisions perfectly every time, and every armchair quarterback is going to be like, oh, that's clearly a penalty. Oh, that's not a penalty. Why are you calling that? Like, trust me, I am the furthest thing from a ref sympathizer. I'm an Iowa State fan. So for me to be like, hey, can we we can slow down a little bit on the ref hate. Like, you feel free to have your criticisms, but like, this is just a fact of the game that we play. There are going to be calls that get missed, and that's kind of just how you have to deal with it. It's a matter of can you overcome any sort of downfall that you might get from a missed call or two.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I think the NFL officiating's been bad for a while. They never can figure out the true definition of like roughing the passer or any of those calls. So it's NFL fans are just super frustrated. And again, I think a lot of that frustration against Kansas City is because they always are in a primetime slot and they always have the most eyes on them. Everyone wants to hate them. But I just could be saying that as a Chiefs fan that gets annoyed by people saying that.
I think there was a study that came out recently that was like between 2013 and like 2022 or 2023. It was proven that the Chiefs have benefited the most from like penalties or like referee decisions, like in that time span. I don't know. I didn't read the article. I just read the headline. Yeah. So do your own research before you start using my word as gospel. But I mean, like I said, refs make their decisions. It kind of just is what it is. People are going to agree with them. People are not going to agree with it.
Right.
If you're expecting perfection, then we need to just have robots make all the calls.
Yeah, and even then, I don't even know if that will fix it.
Baseball's
going to find that out soon because it sounds like they're going to robot umps for the strike zone.
Which that feels a lot easier because you just put a robot on like right here and be like, hey, if it's not in this square, it's a ball. If it's within that square, it's a strike.
The tough part with football and especially basketball as well is every call you can make is so subjective. You could look at a call 10 different ways. 5 of those times might get you one way. 5 of those times might get you another way. That's the tough part of like the football and basketball. It's just so hard. And it's all these plays are so bang, bang. They're so quick. They happen in half a second or less. So it's really hard to make that judgment call in the heat of the moment. But I don't know. I think the NFL officiating, like the help that Kansas City gets from it, I think it's a little overblown. But I won't comment on that anymore. Because we've talked quite a bit of Chiefs in this first 9 minutes of this podcast. So we'll get moving on to another game. I want to talk about the Colts moving to 5-1, beating the Cardinals 31-27. Dude, what do we do with the Colts? They're sitting at 5-1, better record than any of us would have thought on the pod. I think I had them finishing either last or second to last in that division. But what are your general thoughts of the Colts thus far in the season? 6 games in, being 5-1.
Yeah, man. I mean, we'll get into power rankings later, but I don't want to say I'm all in because the regular season is what it is. We'll see what happens in January. But the fact that this team even has like a good shot to be playing in January is far beyond any sort of expectation I had for them. I think everybody and their mother just assumed Daniel Jones was just cooked. And he's just been playing out of his mind this season. So him being able to take over and bring this team to, and just like everybody on that roster, it felt like, other than like Jonathan Taylor, felt like just I think I've made this comparison before. They are the island of misfit toys. Just every playmaker they have has been like cast away or like criminally underrated their entire career. And now they've just come together and just been like the underrated just Avengers and are just taking it out on the league. So I think pretty easily they're the favorite to win that division right now. I would not be surprised at all if they end up getting a pretty good seed in the playoffs.
I think what's most surprising is they have the number one offense in scoring. They're averaging 32 points a game, and they're fifth in passing, which who would have had that on their bingo card this far in the season? Daniel Jones being fifth in passing yards this far into the season.
I think if you told somebody, oh, the Colts are going to have the fifth best passing offense, you would have assumed that Anthony Richardson just turned into prime Cam Newton, but started slinging the rock even more. Like it's incredible, the switch that he's had. Just being able to free himself from the shackles that is East Rutherford, New Jersey, it changes a man.
Right, and it's not like, I mean, they are relying a lot on like Tyler Warren and Michael Pittman, but they have 6 guys that have over 100 receiving yards at this point in the season. So they're spreading the wealth around pretty well. Adonai Mitchell, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Downs, Alex Pierce, Warren, and then Pittman, obviously. Those are all really solid players. Players that have really stepped up. Jonathan Taylor looks like, is it 2023 or 2022 that he had that unbelievable year?
It was 22.
Okay. But he has looked just utterly dominant on the ground. I mean, he's averaging 5.2 yards per carry, which if you can average 5 yards a carry,
good. You're in pretty rare air right there. Anything over 4, I'd say you're doing all right. Yeah. Once you're reaching to that 5 range, it's like, all right, man. Either you have the greatest offensive line of all time, or you are the real deal.
Yeah, I made this comparison quite a few times when talking about the Colts, but they feel like last year's Vikings to me, with the same sense of like Sam Darnold being that Daniel Jones, where it's just like, gosh, I can't get there yet. And I'd rather be late than be early on a team like the Colts. And I think we're at the point now where I think I don't want to say arrived, but they're knocking on the door, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we're kind of at the point where it was like, maybe not now or never for pumpkin mode, because we saw it with the Vikings last year with your example, where as soon as pressure time hit, they cracked. So we'll see once the pressure starts to rise, but from what we've seen right now, I think it's hard to not say that they're not at least a top 5 team in the league right now.
Yeah, and honestly, their one drop of Adonai Mitchell dropping the ball at the goal line from being 6-0.
Yeah, they are if Josh Downs wasn't hurt and AD Mitchell was a DNP coach's decision away from being the best team in the league.
Right, and they obviously, was it week 2 or week 3, they got that leverage call that helped them win the game against the Broncos?
Yeah, I
think that was week 2 or 3.
That one's looming large right now.
Yeah, they just look really good. I mean, I don't know what to say. I was hesitant to really buy into this team, but they look really good. Shane Steichen's got this offense cooking, and this makes the decision of starting Daniel Jones that much better as the weeks go on. I don't know if you saw, but Anthony Richardson actually got hurt in warm-ups and was a scratch.
Yeah, he broke his oblique or something like that, fractured something in his eye.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Charvarius Ward got decked out by a practice tight end before the game. It was out for the concussion. So I think the Colts are going to have to maybe change maybe Randy Moss was onto something when he said 84 don't stretch for the game. That might now be a bad idea now that we're looking at the Colts right now with losing. I mean, hopefully Anthony Richardson wouldn't have had to go into the game because that would mean something happened to Daniel Jones. Obviously, we don't want that, especially with the season he's been having. But to have your QB2 go down and your best corner, I'd say, other than, I mean, you can make an argument for Kenny Moore.
Right.
But to have two guys, you don't want anybody to go down, obviously, but to have two players go down on game day before the game, man, that's a tough break.
And we'll get to the trade deadline stuff in a couple weeks when we get a little bit closer, but just feels like it's time to move on for Anthony Richardson and the Colts. I don't know if you feel the same way, but it feels like he just needs a fresh start. And I don't know if he's going to get that chance, but his time with Indianapolis is done, in my opinion.
I agree. I think especially with the Daniel Jones resurgence, I think they've pretty much found their guy. I think Daniel Jones will be the Colts starter for the foreseeable future. It is time for Anthony Richardson to move on, but like the time for him to move on to get like peak value was last year. Yeah. Because you look at this QB class, it's not like great, obviously, but it's a lot better than last year.
Yeah, even with the guys like Drew Aller, who's now out for the year for Penn State, and then Arch Manning not being as good as we all anticipated him being. Well, I guess Arch even declares, because there's been rumors of him staying at Texas for one more year. But yeah, I don't know. It just feels like a guy that just needs a fresh start.
I guess it's a question of if you're a team that if you are, let's say the Jets. If you're the Jets, you need a quarterback. Is it worth picking, like, let's say Fernando Mendoza or Dante Moore, Lenora Sellers, whoever, with your top 5 pick? Is it worth taking them, gambling on them being your QB of the future? Or do you go to the Colts and be like, hey, give me Anthony Richardson. We'll give you 3rd-round pick, 4th-round pick, if it even takes that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, give me a shot. If it doesn't work, then you're going to have Arch next year or whatever quarterback pops up.
Last thing about the Colts, and then we'll move on. I think this Daniel Jones thing, him playing really well, him being almost in like an MVP conversation, I would say. I think he's earned that right to be at least in the discussion. I'm not saying he's going to win it, but he at least has earned the right to have a valid case, if that makes sense. But I think this goes to show with these quarterbacks, it's coaching is going to be the reason why they succeed. Now, some of them do stink. Some of these quarterbacks that get drafted do stink. But look at a guy like Sam Darnold, who was with the Jets, was bad with the Jets, went to Carolina, bad with Carolina, went to the Niners, sat behind Purdy for a year, got the start in Minnesota, balled out, and is playing super well in Seattle. And then same with Daniel Jones. Was up and down his career with the Giants, got cut, went to Minnesota, sat behind Kevin O'Connell and Sam Darnold in that QB room. And then once he finally got a chance to be a starter again in an offense that's going to help him, he's balling out. So I think to kind of wrap up my point, we can never jump to conclusions with these quarterbacks, which is why I'm still holding out a little bit of hope for a guy like Richardson. What do you think?
Yeah, there definitely is like a point to be made with the QB whisperer. That's kind of a tagline that's been going around a good bit with your like Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell, these coaches that have been known to take these prospects that are about as low as they go and turn them into their best version of themselves. I think there is value in having a guy like that for sure, because you could. And they brought in Sam Darnold, was able to make him good. Daniel Jones went to the Vikings, learned how to be a quarterback. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. There's a reason why these guys are taken with this high of a draft pick, because there is potential if you can get them the right coaching, the right mentorship to be able to blossom into what they can be. But the NFL anymore is not. it's less about developing these guys where, like, back in the day, you could draft a quarterback in the first round and they would sit for a year or two, learn, and then they would be able to come out ready to go. But now, like, it's you got to be ready to go from the jump, or else it's sink or swim. So it's it's difficult to find that balance between finding a guy that you can coach and develop and turn into a star, and finding a guy that can start from the jump and not just completely flounder.
I mean, look at the guy that's in the front runner, or at least top 3 to win MVP. It's the same story. Baker Mayfield was with the Browns. He played well with the Browns, so he's a little different case. Gets traded to Carolina because the Browns obviously make that trade for Deshaun Watson. Struggles a lot in Carolina. Has that one heroic Thursday night football game with the Rams against the Raiders that kind of saves his career. Gets one last shot to start with the Bucs, and now Baker has led the Bucs to a 5-1 record, which is super impressive, just considering his circumstances with Tampa.
Yeah, no. If the Raiders had a slightly better defense, Baker is probably playing in like spring ball right now.
Yeah. Let's get to that Tampa Bay and 49ers game. I know you don't want to talk about it, so we won't harp on it too much. But Tampa Bay improves to 5-1. They win this one 30-19. Baker Mayfield is unbelievable. That 3rd and 13 run he had to give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the first down and essentially not like ice the game, but ice the game pretty much. He was unbelievable. No Bucky Irving, no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin. Lost to Emeka Egbuka in this game, so he's playing with his 4th, 5th, and 6th string wide receivers, backup running back. He's doing it all for Tampa Bay. How impressed are you with Baker Mayfield thus far?
Yeah, man. I think we've said enough on this podcast about how just insane of a season Baker Mayfield is having. I know our third co-host would be wetting his shorts right now, just talking about how just the miraculous turnaround of a career Baker Mayfield has had. And yeah, man, I mean, I've complained for as long as I've been alive about how injuries have pretty much ruined every season I've ever come to love and appreciate. But the Bucs are taking lemons and turning it into lemonade right now. With the amount of injuries they've had, they've been able to turn around and just win games when you're hurt. That is one of the most impressive things you can possibly do, is be down as many starters as the Buccaneers are down right now. Because, I mean, we talk about the Niners being hurt. Like, yeah, we're down a lot of starters, but the Buccaneers are just as hurt, if not possibly even more hurt than us. And they are they might be like the 1 or the 2 seed in the NFC right now. So, they are the 1 seed. So, just to be able to just make do with what you have and win the games you can, that is a ability that cannot be understated. So my hat is off to you, Baker Mayfield. I'm gonna go cry in a hole, because the Niners season is probably about as over as it can be 6 weeks into the season.
I don't know if I would say that the Niners season's over.
Tatum Bethune has some pretty big shoes to fill, man. Fred Warner's out, Nick Bosa's out. Defense already couldn't stop anything with Bosa gone.
Yeah, couldn't stop a cold. But
we'll see what the receiver situation is going to look like. Apparently, Jawan Jennings is playing with glass bones and paper skin. So,
Kendrick Bourne's balling out right now for the Niners.
Yeah.
Who had that on their bingo card in 2025?
Yeah, I do think it is quite funny. I have kind of prided myself as being one of the first main non-Tennessee fans onto the Jawan Jennings hype train. I've been saying he has been one of the more underrated guys in the league for a decent bit now, whether I've put that on the record or not. But I will say him complaining all offseason about needing more money, being worth more money just to get his chain snatched by Kendrick Bourne in 2025. There's comedy in that, man.
Yeah.
I'd be remiss to not mention that. I mean, yeah, I did not see that one coming at all.
No, that one. I saw the stat sheet on that. I'm like, did he really have 5 catches for 142 yards? Like, I had to double take when I saw that because that was just such an absurd number. I almost didn't believe it.
Mac Jones to Kendrick Bourne winning football games. Is this the 21 New England Patriots?
It might
I
be.
hope not.
We're going to talk about our other game of the week, and then we're going to move on to player of the week and power rankings as we look forward to week 7. Last game of the week that we picked was Seattle and Jacksonville. Seattle comes out with this one 20-12 after a big second quarter for Seattle. Sam Darnold looked really good. JSN, my gosh, 8 catches, 162. He was almost my player of the week for this week just because of how well he played. Seattle, they're cooking along. Jacksonville, the O-line for Jacksonville. I don't know how much you watch this game. When Trevor Lawrence gets sacked 7 times, I mean, you're never putting a guy like that in a position to succeed, whereas Sam Darnold only got sacked 1 time, which is so odd because feels like for the longest time, the one gripe we've all had about Seattle is their inability to protect the quarterback. And all of a sudden this year, they're stringing some good O-line days together. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Seattle winning this one 20-12?
Yeah, man. Seattle, another team I didn't really have much stock in going into this year. I kind of thought Sam Darnold was going to go back to pumpkin mode. Like you said, they've struggled so much with trying to protect the quarterback. And now all of a sudden they draft a guard in the first round and now they can protect their quarterback. I mean, who would have thought, man? Who would have thought that investing in the offensive line a little bit could actually help you protect your quarterback? But yeah, between that and it feels like the run game is doing.
There is none. He doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't want to say Sam is like
know.
putting the team on his back, backpacking this team, but he's really close. The running backs are not helping out whatsoever. I mean,
No.
when you get 22 carries from your running backs and get a combined 58 yards.
It felt like going into the year, one of the better, like definitely on the top half of running back tandems with Charbonnet and K9. Like these aren't bad running backs, and all of a sudden they just it is the life of a running back in the NFL where you can just snap your fingers and all of a sudden you just can't run the ball anymore. It's weird, but yeah, going back to JSN, man, I hate to say it, but I think he's arrived, man. I think he has found his role in the NFL and he's taken his ball and running with it.
Yeah, he had this notion that especially the last few years of his career that he's kind of a slot receiver and a slot receiver only. He is a true wide receiver 1. And you mentioned it. He's arrived. I know we talk fantasy a little bit, but I think he's the best fantasy wide receiver at this point, or at least top 2 or 3, maybe only behind Puka.
Yeah, he's killing it. Yeah, who would have thought that the guy that was still putting up numbers behind like Marvin Harrison and DK Metcalf his entire career, you get rid of those guys, guy can still put up numbers.
And Marvin Harrison and DK Metcalf are really
not
numbers.
They're not putting up numbers.
Because I think DK in this Thursday night game, I'm pulling up the stats right now, 3 catches for 50 yards.
Yeah, on 5 targets. Which that game did just go final 33-31. Yeah. Bengals won it. We will talk about that one.
Walk-off field goal. But we might touch on that at the very, very end. But maybe. That is all of the games from week 6 that we wanted to talk about. Unless you want to talk about a game that me and you haven't discussed.
I can't really think of any.
All right, we are going to get on to our player of the weeks and our power rankings for this upcoming week. But first, we will show our standings for Game of the Week picks. This is how it's shaping up to be thus far through the season. Um, Brock had a good week going 2-1. Me and Braden both went 1-2, but Braden picks up his first win of the year. So congrats to Braden.
I get
It
it.
only took
All it took was losing Fred Warner for the season. And just one of the greatest carry jobs in human history by Baker Mayfield and Rashad White.
Yeah. But yeah, Braden no longer is the mush of the 515 Sports Pod.
Even a blind squirrel finds a nut.
I like that. But yeah, that is our Game of the Week standings. We will have our Game of the Week picks posted on socials either tomorrow or Saturday. But we'll make sure that you guys can see who we have for this week and our big time matchups. But we're going to get started with did you want to do player of the week or power rankings first?
Yeah, whatever. Let's do player of the week.
Let's do player of the week. I like it. Braden, here is your player of the week for week 6. You kind of just want to give a reason of who you chose?
Yeah. So I don't think Jalen Carter played in this game. I think he was out, which obviously is going to hinder the Philadelphia run defense. But the duo of Cam Scatterbo and Jackson Dart have given Giants the Giants fans the one thing that they have always feared, and that is hope. Yeah, Cam Scatterbo, 110 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, 5.2 yards per carry. And of course, I played him in fantasy this week and got destroyed because he also had Rico Dowdle and another receiver that had like 30 points as well. Absolutely killed me. But even as I sulked into my couch on that Thursday and watched Cam Scatterbo put 32 points on my head, he's just one of those guys. I watched him just destroy the 5th string linebackers of Iowa State in that Big 12 championship game. And I knew that he was either going to be one of the best or one of the most one-hit wonder running backs in the NFL. And looks like he landed heads because he's killing it right now. Kind of had to take a lot bigger of a role the past couple of weeks with that Tyrone Tracy injury. But now that he's back, it still looks like pretty clearly Scatterbo's the man. A fan favorite in New York, just killing it. I got to give my props. I was this close to making Rico Dowdle my back-to-back player of the week. Had another like 270-yard performance, but considering that A, already had on my player of the week last week, and B, Scatterbo put up 3 touchdowns in a game to beat what was before this week top 5 team as the New York Giants, I got to tip my cap to that.
Yeah, man. Scatterbo, he's balling out this year.
Scatterbo!
He has snatched the RB1 role in New York. Him and Jackson Dart, they're a fun duo. Fun duo for the Giants. And like you said, it's the first time they've really had hope for a team in a couple years?
I mean, it feels like since they took that picture on the boat in like, what was that, 2018? 2017.
Yeah. Oh man, I totally forgot about that. But
how could you possibly forget about that?
On
that might be one of the most infamous pictures in football history.
Yeah, but great player of the week. I'm gonna run a recap Brock's player of the week for this week. Brock chose Patrick Mahomes. We already touched on the Chiefs game, so I won't go too in depth on this. But Mahomes had 4 total touchdowns. He had 3 passing touchdowns. Did have that rushing touchdown right before the first half was over against the Lions. Looked dominant. Looked like the old Patrick Mahomes that we've been accustomed to. Not really the last few years, but we've seen in his MVP form. Chiefs are turning around. They're looking really scary. Getting Rashee Rice back this week, so Chiefs offense is going to be even scarier going forward. But now this is my player of the week. We talked about him a bunch. I felt it was only right. Baker Mayfield.
Sure you didn't swap your player of the week with Brock?
Nope.
You're confident in that.
I'm very confident. I will show you the receipts when we get off this pod. But I chose Baker Mayfield. We touched on it already. Dude's balling out. I think this is the first time that any of us have had him as a player of the week. And I kind of felt that it was a little crazy that it's been this long. But definitely the MVP frontrunner, balling out right now. Didn't really have the stats in this game, but that 3rd and 13 scramble play is what really cemented it for me. But like I said, was about this close of going with JSN. I always value in my player of the week when players win their game versus lose their game. But yeah, Baker Mayfield is my week 6 player of the week. Moving into power rankings for this week. Oop, those are mine. Let's not talk about mine for a second. Braden, you want to give us a recap of your power rankings?
Yeah, I got a little bit of reasoning this week. I actually wrote notes down.
He's got notes.
Yeah, so obviously a bit of a change up from last week. I think my entire top 3 all lost. So that's never great for a top 5 when over half of them lose in the same week. But I'll just go through my 1 through 5 for the audio listeners, and I'll get my reasoning after. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at number 1, Indianapolis Colts at number 2, the Seattle Seahawks jumping up to number 3, the Lions falling down to 4, and the Buffalo Bills falling all the way down to number 5. So for the Bucs, I kind of mentioned this earlier, just being able to win 5 games with as injured of a roster as they seem to have had is just incredible. Baker Mayfield seems like he's not the front runner, but definitely in the top dogs as far as the race goes. And yeah, I mean, it feels like every week is like how are they doing this? How are they continuing to win these games? And they just do it. And it is just because they have that much dog in them. Just shout out Buccaneers are number 1. Number 2, I kind of hinted at this earlier, but Colts, man, again, another one of these teams that's like, how are they even doing this? But not in an injury sense, but more in the sense of like, what are these weapons that are just turning into gold all of a sudden? Like Daniel Jones, who would have expected this type of season out of him? I mean, Shane Steichen was like one of the guys that's like, oh, who's going to be the first coach fired? I feel like most people would have had it being Shane Steichen, but he has just completely redeemed himself as a coach. Jonathan Taylor looks like one of the best running backs in the league. All around, just a ragtag group of guys coming and balling. And, yeah, absolute performances out of all of these guys. Number 3, I feel like a lot of people aren't really giving the Seahawks a lot of love. And I am – yeah, you know the situation's dire when I got to tip my cap to the Seahawks because I hate these guys. But, yeah, I feel like of the 2 lost teams, I feel like the Seahawks' 2 losses are probably 2 of the more valid losses. I mean, losing to I'll say fully healthy in quotations because we're never healthy, 49ers by like 3 or 4 points. And then I can't remember who the other loss was to. I think it was to the Eagles on a last second block or something like that, if I'm remembering that correctly.
The Seahawks?
Yeah,
I thought it was the Niners.
Well, yeah, we lost to the Niners, but they have 2 losses.
Oh,
I can't remember who their other loss was to, but I know it was to I feel like it's the Eagles,
Niners and Bucks.
No, it was the Bucks.
Yeah, last week.
Yeah, they lost to the Bucks, but was still a really close game. So, I feel like most people don't have the Seattle Seahawks in their top 5, but I will. 2-loss team, but as you see, I have 3 2-loss teams. I feel like of the 2 loss teams, those are the 2 best losses, I would say. And yeah, we mentioned it earlier. Sam Darnold, JSN look like they have just completely leveled up their game from what we thought they were going to be. Number 4, I have the Detroit Lions coming off of a loss to the Chiefs. The Chiefs are one of those teams that's like they could be 1-9, and if a team loses to them, it's like, all right, well, I mean, it's the Chiefs. You're allowed to lose to the Chiefs. That's kind of just how that works. But even still, they were my number 1 team last year. I had a lot more faith in them, obviously, than either of my other co-hosts did to win that game, but couldn't quite pull it off. felt like just all around it just wasn't the same team that we saw that to start the year. So that's a little bit scary. Going up against the Bucs next week, we'll see what happens there. But if they don't figure out what went wrong against the Chiefs, I fear for what could happen to them if the Buccaneers get even the slightest bit healthy. And number 5, I have the Bills. Here's a stat for you for the Bills. They are 4-2. Of their 4 losses, or their 4 wins have come for. My words are struggling right now.
It's late. It's late. You're good.
It is getting late. My mouth is getting a little dry. I ran out of my drink. But they have 4 wins. Their 4 wins are from the Saints, who are 1-5, the Dolphins, who are 1-5, the Jets, who are 0-6, and the Ravens, who are 1-5. Overall record of 3-21 of their 4 wins. Not exactly great. And their 2 losses are to two decent teams. I'd put the Falcons in decent territory. They kind of have their moments where it's like, are they elite? But then you remember they lost by 30 to the Panthers. So
how do we know the Panthers aren't elite? Excuse me. There's 2 3-3 teams in the league. One of them is the Chiefs and one of them is the Panthers.
We will cross that bridge when we have to get to it. But yeah, and that performance against the Falcons last week was, let's just say, brutal. It felt like one of the worst overall performances I've seen out of this team in a while. James Cook just couldn't get it going. Josh Allen just couldn't get it going. And it felt like the Falcons just couldn't do wrong. I think Drake London had 150 yards and a touchdown or 2. What is it? Bijan, the really good running back out of Texas, had his first rush over 40 yards in his career, and it was an 81-yard touchdown. Just props to the Falcons. Managed to look a lot better than I think a lot of people were going to think they were going to look. But man, Bills, I don't want to say fraud watch because I have a lot of faith in this team still, but you're going to have to beat somebody with a record better than 1-5 if you want to be taken seriously.
I like it. No Eagles in your top 5, really?
No Eagles. Listen, the Giants lost to the Saints last week.
True.
And then the Giants beat the Eagles this week. So
therefore, the
transitive property, the Saints are better than the Eagles by 20 points.
Yeah.
I'm not putting a team that's worse than the Saints by 20 points in my top 5.
True that.
And I don't like the Eagles, so bite me. This is my list.
Yeah. This is when I feel bad for Brock, and this is when I feel bad that we couldn't record until Thursday night after this game, because this is Brock's power rankings.
Ooh.
All right.
Yeah, man.
So Brock can't even defend himself on this, but for those of you that are unaware, the guys send me their power rankings usually Tuesday or Wednesday at some point. We honestly didn't even know if we could record an episode this week, so this is all super last minute. So the fact that we're able to get this in is kind of surprising to me. But Brock sent me these rankings in on Tuesday, and number 3 was valid until
there may be a polar bear in Arlington, Texas at 10:48 p.m. on Thursday.
Yeah. So just to give a rundown on Brock's power rankings, Brock has the same top 2 as Braden, with the Buccaneers at number 1, the Colts number 2. He has the Pittsburgh Steelers number 3. I will give him the benefit of the doubt. Steelers before this game on Thursday night as we're recording, we're 4-1. Defense looked really good. Offense, I still have my reserves about the offense, but hey man, they're number 1 in the AFC North, and they were humming along. Obviously,
not anymore.
They're not humming along anymore, but hey, the Bengals, they have geriatric Joe slinging the ball around back there, so it's gonna be tough to beat them.
They just gave Jamar Chase 20 targets in that game.
Yeah, that's all you need to do if you're the Bengals, honestly.
Honestly, yeah. No, 23. I stand corrected. 23 targets. Hold on, that's got to be close to a record. I'm researching.
But
That is tied for third all time
wow,
in targets.
that is a lot of
Tied
targets.
with Garrett Wilson last year and Antonio Brown in 2015. And Jason, okay, tied with a few people.
Okay.
But that's a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah, Steelers, they still have a good defense. Offense, we still all have questions about. But before the Thursday night game, I think it was rightfully Brock had reasons to believe that they were the third best team in the NFL. Brock has the Detroit Lions at number 4. Braden touched on it. They just came off a loss against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, though, are one of those teams where it's like Braden said, no matter the record, they can play up and down to their competition, and they just played really, really good on Sunday. And the Lions kind of looked out of sorts. Like, defense didn't play really well, and I know they're super injured in their secondary, so I'll give them a slight pass for that. But and this is me even as an Iowa fan saying this, but the lack of involvement in the run game for Montgomery in this last game was, like, concerning. Yeah, I think he only had 4 carries this entire game. Let me fact check myself before.
And I mean, the week before he only had like 20 yards.
Yeah. Was it last?
Or am I thinking of the week? I might be thinking of the
2
week
weeks
before.
ago.
No.
Against
Yeah,
the
because
Browns.
last week
Bengals,
was the week he had like 30 points in fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, only 4 carries, 6 yards a carry, whatever that's worth for 24 yards. Did have some success in the air with 2 receptions and 37 yards. And for what it's worth, had a passing touchdown and then didn't have a passing touchdown in this game. But if you're the Lions, you got to utilize both Gibbs and Montgomery to be at your full strength, and they just didn't do that on Sunday. So they moved number 4. Then the Rams at 5. Rams beat a shaky Ravens team. I'm trying to put this politely, but a Ravens team that is now 1-5 on the season. So, but Rams defense looked stellar, only allowing 3 points against the Ravens despite no Lamar, but they look really good. Stafford is probably the best version of Stafford we've seen since that first year with the Rams when they went to the Super Bowl. Puka Nacua did get injured in this game, so there's concern about that. But sounds like he's sitting out for this week as they get ready for their bye. But Brock has the Rams at number 5 in his power rankings. Any thoughts on his before we get into mine? I know you're on pins and needles waiting for mine.
I am definitely looking forward to yours, but I do want to give a little bit of justification for why I didn't have a 1-loss Pittsburgh team in my top 5, which has clearly worked out in my favor now. But if we had recorded this, let's say 3 hours ago, that would have still looked a little bit shaky.
Yeah.
But I think you kind of put it best. Their offense is a question mark. I think any Steelers team since like 2010, I feel like has had its question marks around it. Just like they're gonna be decent at least, but can they be in that upper echelon? And I feel like I think you said it best. I would rather be late than early, and I don't know. I'm just not sold. I think the vibes were icky with them, not even in a sense of like how they were playing. Just I just didn't like the vibes. I didn't have them in my top 5, and looks like that's going to work out for me.
Yeah, again, unfortunate timing for the recording of this episode, but we wanted to get an episode in. This was the only time that we could get one in, so we have to do with what we have. All right, moment of truth. Here's Dawson's power rankings for this week, and we'll get to the elephant in the room in a second.
He did it,
but
wow!
I also have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 1 for all the reasons that Braden said. With what Baker's been able to do with this team, despite the injuries on offense, and that defense plays okay at sometimes. They're not terrible, but that offense is the reason why they're succeeding. Once they get Mike Evans, Godwin, and Emeka Egbuka back, this offense is going to be stellar. And even Bucky Irving, who didn't even mention. So they're missing 4 key pieces on offense, and they're still 5-1. They have to be the best team in the league. I only moved the Lions down 1. I still think Detroit's really, really good. Their 2 losses have been to a team I think is really good in Green Bay, and then a team that's I still think is pretty good, as you'll find out in the next few rankings. But yeah, I am still bullish on Detroit. I have my questions about Goff, but literally the entire rest of this team is super sound. Their secondary a little shaky at some points, but their front seven's able to get pressure most of the time. They tackle really well. They're physical. Their O line and D line are unbelievable. I don't know. I know they lost, and I shouldn't have a 4-2 team above a 5-1 team. I get that, but I'd rather be late than early on a team. So I'm going to keep the Lions at 2. You touched on it with the Colts. I still have my reservations about this team. I don't really know what to believe or what not to believe, but they are one play away from being 6-0. So for whatever that's worth, they're beating good teams. They almost beat the Rams, which is their one loss, but they're looking to run away with the AFC South at this point, with Jacksonville losing on Sunday. But I don't know. They look really good, and I finally have to give them their flowers. Seattle is a team I know me and you had him, but I don't think Brock had him in there. But
He did not.
Sam Darnold's good, man. He's just good. He's really shouldering a lot of the offense. And with the lack of running game that Seattle has had thus far in the season, the way he's been able to get the ball to JSN and JSN has emerged as a true number one is remarkable, because considering I don't think any of us had Seattle in like the playoff picture at all, and right now I don't know if they're number one in the NFC West. Let me fact check myself on that.
I think the Niners still have the tiebreaker because we
They do.
beat them.
Tied for first in the NFC West. But
that will likely change.
Yeah. But they're just really good, and that's another team where I feel like at this point in the season, I got to give them their flowers. With the Bills losing on Monday and the Eagles losing on Thursday, it kind of made my top 5 like open. I felt like I could have chose like 10 different teams. So I decided to switch it up, give the Colts and the Seahawks in there. And then here's the elephant in the room. I have the Kansas City Chiefs at 5. And you might be asking yourself, Dawson, aren't the Chiefs 3-3? They are 3-3. Dawson, why would you have a team with 3 losses in your power rankings through 6 weeks? Well,
yeah, I think you already know the answer.
Well, I'm biased. Shocker. But this offense is humming along. If you don't think that this Chiefs offense is back to 2022, 2018 form, where they're the best offense in the league, scoring at least 30 points a game, I think you'd be mistaken. They do have like little to no running game, which is still really concerning at this point. But Xavier Worthy's balling out. Hollywood Brown's balling out. I don't want to say it, but Rashid Rice is coming back next week. He's going to start balling out. Kelsey still looks pretty good. Defense gets stops when they need to. And I was really tempted to put this team higher, but I know that both Braden and Brock would have just absolutely annihilated me for that take. But that is my...
If you walked into this podcast, made me stay up this late to record this, to put Kansas City at number 3 on your power rankings, I would have went to bed on the spot. You would have been finishing out this last 10 minutes by yourself.
That's why I kept them where I kept them, because I knew I didn't have the reasoning and the justification to put them up any higher. But I felt like at this point in the time, I would rather have the Chiefs situation than I would the Eagles or the Bills.
That is a fair point. I would say the vibes in Kansas City are a lot higher than they are in Buffalo or Philadelphia right now, especially with getting Rashee Rice back. But also, we haven't seen Rashee in like 2 years. So who knows if he's going to be the same receiver he was before Mahomes decided to go.
Take him out.
Yeah, that's the word I'm going to use. He just put him out of commission for a while. We'll see what happens. Everybody on Twitter saying everybody got to eat for Rashee Rice is going to be real mad when everybody's eating and Rashee Rice is only getting 5 targets and they kept him on their fantasy bench just to score 3 points.
But wouldn't you agree? Even like the last few weeks with no Rashee Rice, this offense is humming. Like they are
Yeah,
just they've looked
I
really, really
used
good.
I used kind of like the ragtag group Island of Misfit Toys for the Colts. That is just the non-Chief, like the non-Rashee Rice Chiefs receiver room. I
Yeah.
mean, Xavier Worthy, yeah, he was a first round pick, but like Hollywood Brown, Tyquan Thornton, Juju Smith-Schuster, like these are not guys that were like, yeah, these are premier targets in the NFL. And Mahomes is turning an MVP season with these guys. And a 37-year-old Travis Kelce that may or may not even care about football anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, I so badly, and I mean this so badly, wanted to put Kansas City higher, but I knew I would lose both of you on the spot. So I kept my.
I can deal with them being at 5. I can handle that because I mean, really since the Giants game, I think this has been like I think a lot of the questions have kind of answered themselves in KC. So I'm okay with giving them maybe more flowers than they should for a what have you done for me lately top 5. But we'll see.
Yeah. And they got a game this Sunday against the Raiders. So we'll see how that ends up going. But yeah, that is this week's episode of the Between the Hashes podcast. Braden, do you have anything else to add before we end this one up?
Only other couple things I maybe wanted to touch on a little bit. Brian Branch is suspended for this next game against the Bucs. So that an already depleted secondary is going to be even worse. So enjoy the Lions in the top 5 while you got them, because I got a bad feeling about them.
Yeah.
Also, I mentioned this earlier. A lot of people had Shane Steichen being the first head coach being fired. Brian Callahan ended up being the first one getting fired.
True.
We didn't mention that much, but anybody that was keeping tabs on the Titans kind of saw this one coming. He's not good. Wasn't good, really, ever.
My question is, who's the next coach to be fired?
The next coach to be fired?
Because I think it's Mike McDaniel.
Yeah. I don't know if there's going to be another in-season firing, but I think Mike McDaniel, how long would the Jets have to keep losing for Aaron Glenn to lose his job? No. Does he make it to the end of the season if they're like 0-9?
Oh, you know who else is on the hot seat that we don't really talk about too much? Gannon. Jonathan Gannon with the Cardinals.
Yeah, he definitely is also on the hot seat, especially after that whole kerfuffle with DeMarcado. I think the Cardinals organization already is kind of like, you're on thin ice, buddy. A loss to a team they shouldn't lose to again after the Titans, I think, and he's probably exit stage left.
Anything else before we close this one off?
Nope. I think that's about it. May God have mercy on any 49er fan's soul, because it's about to be a rough season.
Well, in that case, another great episode in the books for the Between the Hashes podcast, recapping Week 6 and looking forward. We didn't really look forward to Week 7, but Week 7 is close. We're almost at the halfway point of the NFL season. Trade deadline a couple weeks away. Basketball's going on. And probably by the time we record our next episode, the NBA will have already started. Playoff baseball still going on, so make sure to watch that. Hockey is starting. I don't know how many hockey fans we have out there, but all the sports are going on right now. College football, college basketball is all getting started. So a great time to be a sports fan. But we are going to sign off here for tonight for the Between the Hashes podcast. For Braden Bankin, I'm Dawson Livingston, signing off.